You have to maximize what you're doing as a driver. You definitely got to be pretty aggressive when it comes down to it.
Some guys are going to get in over their head, maybe wreck when they wouldn't have usually just because they're giving it so much. Nobody's going to give an inch.
Every single driver, they will do whatever it takes to get to the next round.
The stress level is through the roof. It doesn't matter what we do next week. Today's the day.
My entire career's been built for that moment. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure we prevail.
Dover is a very treacherous racetrack. Something can happen in the blink of an eye.
They call it the Monster Mile for a reason. It can definitely knock you out of the playoffs.
Things happen very fast here at the Monster Mile, and so we'll get a few quick updates from pit road. We'll start with Kelly Stavis.
Rick, William Byron had 3 wins in the regular season, but in the last 7 races, just 3 top 10s. This could be just the place for him to turn things around. William told me he has the confidence in this car to go for the win today, and he said that before he put the 9 car on pole, Parker.
Well, Kelly, Blake Cook rolls off 19th in this race, but don't let that fool you. He told me we never qualify well here, but we race well, and we have a top 10 car. His team owner, Matt Collig, sent a little bit of motivation this week, saying, there's only 12 teams in the whole wide world that get to participate in the XFINITY playoffs, and we're one of them. Dave?
Daniel Hemrick is one of 5 Childress racing cars in the field today, but Daniel's car was edgy, according to him, when I talked to him about it yesterday. So he went to all 4 of his teammates to try to get it right for this afternoon. Hemrick will start 9th. Marty?
Dave, 19-year-old Cole Custer comes in second in the championship in the Xfinity Series after a good run at Kentucky to open the playoffs last weekend. I asked him a moment ago, so does that put you in an offensive or defensive position in this race? He said, we're going to play offense all day long. I love this racetrack. I'm an aggressive driver, and that's what Dover is, an aggressive racetrack. So Cole Custer finished 4th here in June. Rick thinks he might be able to do even a little bit better today.
Yeah, and guys, what a great point that was brought up there. I mean, the pressure continues to amp up every race, but think about it for 12 drivers. They have a chance at a championship. They're fighting for something that could be the greatest accomplishment of their career. To get things started, let's get the engines fired. We go trackside for the command.
And now, for the most famous words in all of motorsports, I present to you Lieutenant William Sullivan of the Rehoboth Beach, Delaware Police Department.
Drivers, start your engine!
Fired up. Go ahead, fire it up. Fire it up when you're ready. Fire it up. Fire it up. Fire down.
You can hear and feel the horsepower. Drivers now strapped in and ready for 200 laps here at Dover. The Cinderella story a year ago, Blake Cook making his way through the playoffs. Jeff Burton will talk to him next on the Pace Laps. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Ford. We go further so you can. And by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. 12 drivers started last week with a similar goal, all wanting to make it to the championship 4 in Miami at season's end. There are a few now that will have to fight out of a deficit that they have put themselves in after just one race. But what better place to do it than Dover to try to get things going in the right direction. And the car's beginning to roll off of pit road now. We take a look at the starting grid up front. William Byron, the 19-year-old, just his second Xfinity Series pole alongside Daniel Suarez, a regular in the Monster Energy Cup Series.
Yeah, in row 2 we have the Cup Series regular Eric Jones. He'll line up next to Justin Allgaier, who's currently in the playoffs. But how about row 3? Cole Custer, playoff driver, won both stages last week and is quickly emerging as perhaps a Miami favorite.
And how about row 5? Daniel Hemmert, the young guy in his first playoff. Elliott Sadler, been there, done that. Had an opportunity to win some championships. And how about Ross Chastain? Good qualifying effort in 12th.
Look back in row 7, Brendan Gaughan, another one of the playoff contenders. 9th in the points right now. He's 8 points behind that cutoff line. Coming up in row 10, that is Blake Cook. We mentioned Cinderella story from a year ago. We want to hear from him, so Jeff, why don't you dial him up on the radio?
Hey Blake, it's Burton, NBCSN booth. You with us?
What's happening, Jeff?
Well, up here excited, ready to watch this race. Curious how you and your crew chief Chris Rice are going to approach this race. Got a little bit of ground to make up in the playoff points, but how do you make this work for you today?
Man, there's no hold back today. We got to get after it. Got a good leaf filter Chevy. Proud to be in the playoffs. And we got to be aggressive today. Get as much points as we can. Hopefully leave here with the top 5.
Well, Blake, thank you for spending a little bit of time with us. Good luck today, bud.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Congrats to your son.
Thank you, bud.
We'll ride along with a few different drivers here at the Monster Mile.
Well, Matt Tifft, let's start with him, the Toyota in-car cam, but he's going to have to start in the back. Had a left rear tire go down in qualifying. Going to have to start at the very back of this field.
Yeah, how about Ryan Reed? He'll start in the 17th position, but he ran 5th here in June, currently just above the cut line in the 8th position.
The U.S. Cellular car, Brendan Gaughan driving. It's going to be very interesting to watch Brendan Gaughan. You know he's going to be going to the top of this racetrack as soon as you can.
In the 7, Justin Allgaier will carry the Chevy onboard camera starting right up front, row 2, and he has, I think, the coolest view, the coolest shot in all of racing, Rick. What better camera than just right on the helmet? We'll ride along and see everything that Justin Allgaier sees.
We'll go from the helmet to the helicopter. Actually, aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods to give us a good perspective on how narrow this racetrack becomes when the cars come out of turn 2 and turn 4. We'll be giving you some great perspective on that because that's one of the more difficult things about this racetrack. It's a mile in length, it's concrete surface, but it becomes very tight. As we take a look at the race analysis, just 200 laps, 200 miles, and broken into stages.
Yeah, they broke into stages, both the first and second stage, 60 laps in length. The final stage, 80 laps, very slow pit road. That'll be a topic of conversation, 35 miles per hour. Fuel window somewhere between 85 and 95 laps.
Well, we know we call this a Monster Mile. Well, why do you call it the Monster Mile? It's very, very demanding. Each racetrack, each race car is up. One of the many reasons is how narrow this racetrack is. Look at the width on the straightaways, 48 feet. The corners are wider than the straight. So when you have an accident, there's nowhere to go. That all funnels down, end up having multi-car wrecks on the straightaways.
Talked so many times about the playoffs and how important it is for the drivers. Well, here's what the playoffs are. It will be 3 different rounds. The round of 12, which we're in now, the round of 8, and then the championship. Only 4 drivers will have a shot at the title come that championship in Miami.
Yeah, Rick, in that format, it's very simple. At the start of every round, the points are reset. You get your playoff points added in. That's how the teams are seeded. A win and you advance, and the lowest 4 drivers on points will be eliminated at the end of each round.
The way you earn points, You can get 5 playoff points for winning a race, or you get 1 playoff point for winning a stage. And again, there will be 2 stages in today's race where someone could potentially get a playoff point. Those playoff points only advance if they remain in the playoffs, and they will reset once the points are reset at the beginning of each round.
Well, Rick, we talked about points, we talked about playoffs. Now, this isn't a cut race for the Xfinity cars like it will be tomorrow for the Cup race, but the pressure is still high. People know it's an opportunity. We've talked about how difficult the track is, so you have to look at those cars farther down the grid. While you talked, Jeff, about the difficulty if you attack this racetrack, I think that's what they need to do. They need to attack and attack early.
Great battle will take off right from the beginning in this first row. William Byron and Daniel Suarez. William Byron from Junior Motorsports on the outside. JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing, on the inside. Green flags in the air.
Really good start by Daniel Suarez to kind of be able to match the takeoff of William Byron. Isn't going to get the lead, but a good start.
How many grooves will we see through the turns at this racetrack?
Well, we already see 2. The question is, will we see 3 or 4? This racetrack can widen up. Just don't know how this new tire is going to lay rubber down. It's a new tire Goodyear brought with an effort of trying to widen the groove out.
Well, and you can already see the 7 of Justin Allgaier with a big slide off turn 2 as we go on board with him. You mentioned grooves. It's not just as simple as running around the bottom of the racetrack. When you run up the racetrack like the 7 just did right there, you can change the shape of the corner. Kind of put a diamond to it, turn back down on corner exit.
And you see now he's gone back to the bottom of the racetrack, but what a great shot. You can see out the windshield, but also the steering wheel. So watch as he enters turn 3. Watch what he does with the steering wheel. He initially turns, then back to the right, back to the left. So that's just correcting the car. Car's a little bit free on corner entry. He's got to take wheel out of it, then to put it back into it as he gets in the middle of the corner.
We saw right there at the end, he glanced up at his mirror. You have so much to worry about in front of you, but at the same time, you got to watch out behind you as well.
Hey, Rick, calling his car very loose off right now, the 7 of Allgaier.
And Allgaier currently running in the 4th position. William Byron up front, Daniel Suarez running 2nd. Eric Jones is 3rd, Allgaier 4th. Cole Custer running in the 5th position.
I don't think it's uncommon, Steve, to start out loose at this racetrack. This track's going to rubber up, going to continue to get blacker and blacker, and as it does that, it tends to get a little bit tighter. So I'm not surprised to hear Justin Allgaier talking about being loose taking off.
Well, Jeff, we're really focused on the top 3, top 4, but you mentioned it as you see Brandon pull an aggressive move on Cole Custer. Gets behind the left rear quarter.
Oh, round goes to 33. So Brandon Jones, and there's contact. The 93 gets into him.
Got hit hard right rear.
And just snuck through there was the 19 of Matt Tifft. I was going to explain. You talked about it on the grid. Matt Tifft had to go to the back. Luckily, he got through that wreck, but Brandon Jones, heavy damage on that 33 car.
It looked like initially he had spun around and hadn't made contact about anything, but Jeff Green just couldn't get slowed down and got into a hard impact.
This racetrack has been called a self-cleaning racetrack. Because of the banking, everything goes down to the apron.
Listen, there were 10 cautions here in June. 7 of those 10 were in the first half of this race, of that race. So
are you trying to tell me to look out? Because we're 7 laps in, we're into yellow already.
Take a look. The 33 slid up the racetrack.
Yeah, it just looked like he was underneath Casey Mears and just no air on the side of the car, and he just spun out. So right here, he's got the brakes locked up, but you mentioned self-cleaning. That's a great example. The banking is so severe here that the car just didn't stay on top of the banking and it slid down.
Trying to save it there, trying to drive the car even while it was sideways.
So see, right, all the brakes are locked up. There you go.
Yes, you see onboard Ryan Reed, that Ford Performance onboard camera is a great shot about how Ryan, he just kind of didn't do anything. He let the wreck happen in front of him and then snuck through. And as I mentioned, Matt Tifft, you said it at the start, had to go to the back because of that flat tire. Well, I won't say lucky, I'll say nice job. He gets on the brakes, gets a shot from behind, and that's really what I think what got the 93 out of control is, you know, that's the thing. How much do you slow down, right? It's that chain reaction. It's like driving down the interstate. Someone gets on the brakes, the accident normally is behind them.
Well, you can do a nice job and be lucky both, and that's what that was. If he would have gotten hit any harder from the back, it wouldn't have mattered. He was been out of control. So he was doing all he could to get slowed down, and Jeff Green was in the back of him.
Yeah, that was big contact right here. That was a hard hit to the rear end of the 33 as well as the front of that 93. Parker.
Hey guys, as we see Brandon Jones spin out there under another car, I talked to Ty Dillon earlier today, and he told me with this new composite body, he felt like the cars were a lot freer in traffic, that the way the air was working in traffic, that for whatever reason, he was finding that you couldn't have as much rear grip as maybe on the steel body car, so maybe that aided or helped Brandon Jones have that spin that he had.
Well, Steve, this is only the second race with this composite body. The body was instituted from NASCAR to try to lower the cost and also to create more parity in this series, and it makes a little less downforce. And this is the second track, but the first track that's this fast. So it's really the first time they've had a chance to drive in the corner side by side, not really knowing what to expect.
How difficult is it? Right along with Matt Tifft. He was able to get through unscathed here at the Monster Mile.
Never checked up behind you there. Let me see.
Back at Dover on pit road, playoff contender Matt Tifft. You see from our onboard camera there the back of his 19 car damaged in that melee. We think it might have been the 93 of Jeff Green, but we're not sure. But he took a good shot right to the middle of the back end there, Rick.
Yeah, we take another look at it. Here's the 93 coming up as Tifft was slowing down. Jeff Green did get into the back of him, so they're going to work on the back of the 19 and the 93 and 33. Such hard contact. They both had to be taken off with wreckers.
Yeah, and you may ask, why wasn't Jeff Green slowing down? Well, he had a car in front of him. He also had a car that was in front of him in the outside lane. So think about the visibility. How could he see what was going on in front of him? Both cars in front of him, and one of them, that one in the outside lane, prevents that vision toward the outside of the corner.
19 rolling again, under caution for the first time at Dover for this incident. NASCAR Drive is NASCAR.com's live race day companion. It's now available on your mobile device. You can select your favorite camera angle or driver with in-car video. You can even watch multiple angles at once. Never miss a lap with NASCAR Drive. It's NASCAR.com/drive. Want to listen in on spotter communication from the 7 of Justin Allgaier.
We're able to move up and find a little bit of speed. You know, about a lane and a half, 2 lanes off the bottom. Just go in a lane up and then drift up another car length and then down on exit there. It's about a tenth slower, but they were able to use it to, I think you'll be able to utilize it, set up for passes and stuff. Yeah, it's important.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less.
Well, when you talk about spotters, it's more than just understanding the traffic. It's also the groove, the preferred line around the racetrack. That was TJ Majors, who spots for Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the Cup side. And I bring that up, Jeff, because he has watched all of the Cup practice this morning, and that groove widened out. That's the lane we saw the Cup cars running. So good information for his driver, Justin Allgaier.
It's great information. And that's the difference between a spotter with really good experience and not. Looking at and helping the driver. Spotters no longer just say clear, clear high, clear low. There's so much information you can provide to the driver and the crew chief.
And the field approaching the Geico Restart zone. William Byron and Daniel Suarez. This is the way the race started. We'll see how the restart goes.
Another really good restart by Suarez.
Up the racetrack he goes. He had to catch it. He does before he gets into the 9 of Byron. So Suarez holds on to second, but had his hands full going through 1 and 2. Allgaier's moving up to the 3rd spot.
Here you go, side by side. We just saw a car lose control underneath another one. See how Eric Jones can handle it.
Eric Jones in the 20, just behind Justin Allgaier. Behind them, Ryan Blaney in the 22. There's Allgaier looking back on that battle. Ryan Blaney making another start in the Xfinity Series. Very few starts does he make, but able to take advantage of a little more track time here at Dover. He's in the playoffs in the Monster Energy Cup Series.
How about Cole Custer trying to get underneath Blaney? Blaney lost a little bit of momentum. Cole thought of that 3 wide just for a moment. It wouldn't surprise me if he'd do that. Very aggressive.
One caution has come out, and it was the 33 of Brandon Jones that went around, and now Brandon Jones out of the infield care center and standing by with Parker.
Right, Rick, that was on lap 6. Brandon, you got a little loose there and spun out, and then actually had the instant coming down the racetrack. What happened from inside the cockpit?
Yeah, I'm, ended up getting really close to the guy there, and you know, the arrow will pull you around so bad, but just wish we could have continued, man. I didn't think our car was really that damaged. I got hit one time and just couldn't get up the hill enough to get it spun around, so if they could have got the guy moved or whatever, I could have kept going, I feel like, but it's part of it. I thought Aaronson's and everybody brought us a great car. I hate that we had to end it so early here, but I guess it's part of the sport.
And guys, just to clarify, what he's talking about is he felt like he didn't need the assistance to get out, and therefore NASCAR made him give a caution on the racetrack.
Caution comes out again. Harrison Rhodes in the 0-1. It looked as though the engine went away for him. Saw all the smoke rolling out from underneath the hood and out of the wheel wells, front tires.
This is never a good sign. I know you are hoping to see an oil line. You know, why do they look under the hood? I mean, it looks like it's definitely a broken engine. Well, maybe not. You've seen at times maybe an oil line has come off, or it's just something that's easily repairable, but not so luckily we saw the motion from the crew member that engine has deceased.
Luckily not a lot of oil on the racetrack. These guys behind me would have been in big trouble. Going back to that Brandon Jones interview, you know, that's just, they've had that kind of a year you want to forget. Just nothing's gone right, and getting a caution that early in the race is very disappointing, and I think Brandon will be glad when this year's over.
And what they were talking about, Rick, about you know, not being able to continue, that's new this year. That was a little bit of a conversation last week with Kevin Harvick. He got in that accident on the backstretch with Kurt Busch, and I don't know if Kevin's car was repairable or not, but he couldn't get unhooked from the 41. They had to have a little mechanical assistance from a wrecker. That was it. That was the end of their day. Same issue for Brandon Jones. He said he couldn't drive up the banking with the damage to his race car. So that could affect the playoffs as we see more cars get in an accident.
Already his 6th DNF of the 2017 season. Second caution has come out at the Monster Mile. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Just 21 laps in to this, the second race of the playoffs for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And the first stage, 60 laps long, so 39 to go in the first stage. But already 2 cautions has brought the pace down to lethargic. William Byron will have to have another great start. This time a restart, as he once again will be battling with Daniel Suarez. And again, the choice of lanes is whoever's leading the race, and William Byron has chosen that outside line for the 3rd time.
So you've mentioned how Daniel Suarez has gotten some decent restarts, but William Byron has been able to clear him off the top. Do you think that is a bigger difference in Xfinity with the reduction in horsepower, or do you think this is something we're going to see all weekend long?
Well, the only passes we've seen on the bottom of the racetrack, we saw a pass earlier where a car drove underneath another car right behind him and got him really loose. Eric Jones got loose. But on this restart, I mean, the 18's done a great job. He actually enters turn 1, but right here loses the back of the car. So I just have to believe that what we saw with Brandon Jones is real, that these cars are a little bit freer around other cars.
Now that shows you how loose that 18 was. Oh, my goodness.
And if they are freer underneath a car, that means that you can pull up behind the car in front of you and take the air away from him and use the aerodynamic efficiency that you've given him to make that pass, much like we saw Eric Jones and Blaney earlier.
Working their way through 3 and 4. Field approaching the Geico restart zone once again. Byron on the outside, Suarez on the inside. Green flag back in the air.
Shot by the 20 to the rear bumper of the 9.
That wasn't a little one.
No. Now you see at 18 trying to drive in there with a little more confidence. He doesn't get loose this time, but he just can't quite carry the speed on corner exit.
Here comes Eric Jones trying to get to the outside of Suarez. Jones in the 20, Suarez in the 18. And way up the racetrack goes Eric Jones. Looks like he may have lost the handle there for a moment.
Rick, one thing we're going to talk about is look at the racetrack. Look how clean it is. Look how bright the concrete is. All of that rubber that we saw at the beginning of the race has been picked up. As these cars roll around slow, those hot tires actually take the rubber off the racetrack. We'll watch as they run. The track will get darker and the shade will become, as we have another yellow.
Again.
Holy smokes. I couldn't even get it out that we were going to have rubber put on the racetrack because they don't run long enough to put me down.
It's the 40 of Chad Fincham, and a lot of damage to the left front and left side of that car.
Well, there's a lot of drivers in those Cup motorhomes right now.
Garage right there.
Because this is what happened in the spring race. Not only was the Xfinity race caution after caution, so was the Cup race.
Saw there was some damage there to the 15 of Reed Sorensen as well, but there the 40 got into the back of the 39 and then hard contact with the wall.
But like the 90 car, Brandon Brown just didn't anticipate the 15 slowing down and got into the back of him. Oh, big hit.
Those are bigger hits than you think, too. Man, those are. And that's an area that Dover has changed over the years. The soft wall used to come to an end right about corner exit, and there were standard walls down both straightaways. But over the last few years, Dover continually improving their racetrack and their facilities by adding that soft wall.
So see this stack up? The 07 had trouble, the 39 slowed down, the 40 slowed down, and the 90 just didn't get slowed down. It all started 4 car lengths ahead of where the wreck ultimately happened.
Steve, you called it a softer wall.
It's not soft.
It's not, they're not very soft. It's a safer barrier,
It's
which
softer.
stands for steel and foam energy reduction. And that's what it's meant to do, is reduce the amount of force that the driver has to feel. It absorbs that car to a point so that the driver doesn't have to have that incredible G-forces put upon his body.
So here's the issue. Look at the black marks. See the angle of impact? Those black marks are not 90 degrees, but they are very, very straight to that wall, and that's the impacts that hurt. That angle of attack has a great deal to do with how many G-forces that car and the driver absorb.
So again, this is the third caution already, and only 26 laps into the race. It's a short race, only 200 laps, 200 miles, but you can tell this track is very difficult. A lot of drivers struggling early on, especially if they're down on the bottom of someone else, losing a little bit of that aero advantage. Parker.
Well, it's funny you say that, Rick, because Ty Dillon just came across the radio as his caution came out, and he said when anyone gets beside him on the outside of his car, he gets so loose he's going to wreck. And also his brother, Austin Dillon, said the same thing in the 2 car. So a lot of drivers commenting exactly what we think we're seeing, which is with this composite body, they're getting very loose racing side by side.
And again, just the second time that the composite body has been used in the Xfinity Series. And this is definitely a faster racetrack.
This is a fast racetrack for sure.
Miles.
Talked about it at the start, Steve. The only way to run fast here is attack. You can't ride around. You can't drive in the corner easy, and there's nowhere to hide. You know, you're in the middle of these packs, and so for all these guys that are racing for these playoffs, they don't want to be in a wreck because it can end their playoff hunt. But you can't just ride around. There's no way to just ride around and find somewhere safe.
Marty.
Rick, it's been fun to watch these restarts with William Byron and Daniel Suarez. Here's what Daniel had to say about these restarts and how difficult they've been on that 18 car.
I'm a little too free, Eric. As we are going on restarts, I'm getting a little bit too free. Landing and I'm passing center, kind of like on the throw. Just a little bit, but that is, backing me off a little bit of being aggressive.
And that's what everybody is saying. What he's saying there, Jeff, is that I'm a little too free in, and that's keeping me from being as aggressive as I want to be. If he had a little more security in the race car, he could be even more aggressive. But fun to watch these two make all these restarts happen.
Well, Jeff, I think a little of that insecurity is aero-driven. So we go here into our NASCAR heat wind tunnel. We're going to see side force, so important for these race cars. So as the air goes down the right side of this race car, it loads the right side, kind of like a crutch or a cane, pushing back on it, giving the driver some security. But, Jeff, what happens when another driver comes to the outside?
Yeah, so you can see how the air flows down the side of the car. It dumps the air onto the spoiler. But when the EBCSN Camry pulls up next to it, the air goes away, and now that air does not get to the spoiler. It actually pulls the air away, and now the car on the outside has all the side force. It has the air being driven to the spoiler into the side of the car, creating a lot of stability for the outside car, taking stability away from the inside car.
So, Rick, that's the goal of this restart. William Byron just wants to be close enough that he can pin the 18 down and take away that side force through 1 and 2.
Once again, field approaching the Geico restart zone.
Of course, the danger in that, Rick, is if William Byron gets too close and gets the 18 loose, where's the 18 going to go? Into the side of the 9 car.
Justin Allgaier in the 7, trying to make the move up. Couldn't get to the outside of Suarez, so he tucks in behind him. William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Justin Allgaier, 1, 2, 3. Ryan Blaney in the 22s made the pass. He moves up to 4th.
Blaney's done a good job on these restarts. He started 8th. Started this race, has worked up to 4th. Well, there's Cole Custer in that position we keep talking about.
And look, they're lining up to his outside. Sorry, Rick, but as Jeff talked about, those other drivers know he's at a disadvantage as well, right? So they're going to try to get there and just continue the landslide for the 0-0 to lose ground, Marty.
It's amazing what this 19-year-old Cole Custer is doing. And you meet him, and he's sort of this meek man, if you will, this young man, very mild-mannered, but he becomes a different person inside of a race car. And he told me, I love Dover because it's aggressive. I'm an aggressive driver. So, Jeff, I think you would agree. If you met Cole Custer, you would never believe the kind of driver he is behind the wheel because he's a completely different person, isn't he?
You know what they say, Marty, when those drivers pull those helmets on and strap it on, they become completely different people. And Cole Custer, he is on the extreme of that.
From one 19-year-old to another, let's talk about William Byron. Kelly.
Still at the front of this field, and the team kind of joking with William during that last caution, saying, hey, you're getting a lot of opportunities to practice your restarts here. And this 9 car seems to continue to get better and better every time he fires off. He started off a little bit free, but said the car came to him, and now the team's just telling him, hey, take care of your stuff. Just do enough to stay ahead of that 18 behind you. This is the team definitely looking for a win here today.
And William Byron, a year ago, was a part of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series playoffs, where it looked as though he was going to win that championship. Didn't end up being able to close the deal. Now he's in a position where he looks like he is the leader, the playoff leader, and maybe the favorite going into Miami if he's able to advance all the way through the rounds. And right now he is being scored as the leader on the racetrack, and he is also leading in the points as he does that. Kelly.
Yeah, and Rick, I actually talked to William about that experience in the Truck Championship last year. He said what he learned most was that you really can't just get caught up in the emotions of everything. He said last year he felt like he kind of had to drive harder than he already was because it was playoff time. Now he says, now I know it's not about driving any harder. It's about making sure all the little details are taken care of. I think that's what really separates the good playoff teams from the bad.
You know what else happened last year, Rick, I think, in those playoffs is it showed everyone the power of a win. Because William Byron arguably was the guy that should have went to Miami to race that championship by his consistency and his effort. But there are no guarantees in sports, and he didn't do anything wrong. That mechanical failure took him out, the engine, the expired engine. But if he could have had a win in that round, he would have been already moved through. So that's why, Jeff, the value of a win cannot be stated enough. Points are important, but wins are a guarantee advancement.
Wins fix everything, but also was a great reminder and even a motivator to create a system that rewarded points in the playoffs that you earned in the regular season. So now William Byron, because he had such a good regular season, if that happened to him this year, he has something to fall back on. You should get a benefit from having a good regular season.
Dave.
Justin Allgaier had a good restart, having talked about it with his spotter, TJ Majors, before the green.
TJ, what can I do different on these starts, man? I can't push any harder. It's like nobody else can get going at all, and I'm the only one keeping everybody alive, you know?
I don't think you've done anything wrong. I think you've got the best start that you can get.
You saw him pushing the car in front of him on that restart, runs third now, and after that, TJ told him, perfect restart, buddy.
I don't think his can't push any harder was an issue for him. I think he was worried about what he was going to do to the car he was pushing.
Tifft on the inside of Ryan Reed. And we saw Tifft get a little bit of damage to that back bumper that you can see there as we go on board with Ryan Reed and the Ford Performance camera.
Well, these two cars came into this race 7th and 8th in the points. Remember, only going to take 8 into the next round after Charlotte.
That was such a great example of, we could hear Ryan Reed was out of the gas a little bit longer than Tifft was, because you could see Tifft accelerate away, and then you heard Ryan Reed get into the gas and tried to catch him. Allgaier still running in the 3rd position. We talked with Blake Cook at the beginning of the show. He's currently running in the 23rd position, Parker.
Right, Rick, and it's just not going the way that Blake Cook wants right now. That car has been way too free on landing into the banking, which means when it actually goes off the entry of the corner and lands in the center, it wants to jump out from under him. This team was really looking forward to having long run pace, and it's really hurt them through having all these restarts to start the race, because he's come across the radio a couple times and said, I have no grip for the first couple laps. You see Austin Dillon, the 2, get to the inside of him right now.
Ryan Blaney on the outside of Justin Allgaier, and Blaney takes that spot away. Last time by, a little bit of contact between the two. Look at this.
Well, Blaney had moved up the racetrack and had that momentum, and Allgaier tried to block him a little bit, and Blaney's like, nope, not going to have that.
Kelly.
And I think that Ryan Blaney and the 22 team expected to qualify a little bit better than they did, which was 8th, as crew chief Greg Irwin telling Ryan, hey, it's going to take 20, 30 laps for the splitter to get worn in. It's a new one, and that was their problem, he said, in qualifying. Right now, Ryan's saying that the car fired off free, but now it's getting tight through the center and off the turns, although he's still happy with his entry.
Well, Kelly, if you want to see what the future of NASCAR looks like, you're looking at it. William Byron going Cup racing next year. Daniel Suarez in his rookie year. Ryan Blaney in his first year in the playoffs in the Cup Series. These top 3 are the future of the sport.
And William Byron already has a 1.5-second lead over those Cup drivers that are behind him. You can catch all the action of NASCAR on NBC with the NBC Sports app. You can get closer with alternate camera angles, driver stats, and even track information. It's anytime, anywhere. William Byron continues to lead the Use Your Melon Drive Sober 200. The gap between himself and Blaney now just 1 second.
Well, here's Ross Chastain, currently running in the 13th position. Finished 12th here last October. Got a career best finish of 4th at Iowa this year. I mean, it's really coming together for this 4, finding some bright spots and really finding a way to battle the monster. Running up inside the top 15 is a decent run for this 4 car.
Yeah, somebody else we need to look at is Corey LaJoie in the 24 car. Corey LaJoie won a K&N East race here in 2012. Best finish of 6th here in October. So Corey LaJoie with a good run also.
Well, we mentioned these two and the surprises of running well. Applaud them because this is a driver's type racetrack. It's a battle. It's the monster, but there's some other drivers, surprisingly though, are struggling on a 24 or now 25 green flag lap run to stay in front of the leader. And perhaps the biggest surprise has to be the 2 of Austin Dillon, 20 seconds behind the leader, Rick.
Well, he's going to have to hang on for about 5 more laps because that's how many are left in this first stage. Kelly.
Going back to Corey LaJoie in that run that he's having, he qualified 14th. He said, I expect to race even better than that because he thought he only had like a 15th to 18th place car. And he said, and this is a driver's track. He said he's always loved coming here. Obviously has a little bit of confidence from that win in the K&N East Series back in 2012. He says this track takes discipline, which suits me just fine.
Well, Kelly, this track does take discipline, but it also takes a little bit of courage. So Ryan Blaney has decided, hey, I'm going to try something a little bit different. Ryan Blaney has moved way up the racetrack. Look how high he is in the middle of 1 and 2. Running the leader, William Byron, down just a little bit. The last few laps, they broke it even, but the minute that Blaney went to the top, he picked up speed.
And look at that. That is commitment. That's on the edge of the black, all the way up to the light gray, looking for that fresh pavement, or excuse me, fresh concrete.
And the battle on the right is for 4th. Eric Jones, Justin Allgaier. Allgaier has the spot. Jones trying to take it away as he runs that lower line, but we just saw Allgaier go all the way up the racetrack.
And, you know, it's interesting because it's a battle of priorities here. Remember, Justin Allgaier, he wants to run in this position because at the end of the stage, points will be rewarded. Eric Jones has no consideration for points. He just wants that position because he's a race car driver, and he wants to go get the next position in front of him.
Hey guys, as we see Ryan Blaney use that outside lane, I think what's interesting is you mentioned him just going to the edge of the black. That's what you have to do when you run that outside lane because you don't want to get too high and abuse those tires because you can really hurt them quickly if you're the first one to the top of the racetrack where there's extra grip and speed driving that race car straight off the corner, but you don't want to do it at the risk of maybe getting that tire problem.
Final lap of the stage, guys.
You just heard a report from a guy that loves running the outside. I saw Parker at Bristol running the outside way up.
William Byron has had great restarts. He's been able to stay out front and even hold off this hard charge by Ryan Blaney. He will win stage 1. And earn himself an all-important playoff point that will advance, if he's able to advance, into the second round. William Byron gets the win of stage 1. And so Byron starting off up front, able to hold on for the first 60 laps as he takes stage 1 here at the Monster Mile. Pit road is open. The teams are up on the wall anticipating their drivers coming down right now. And so we'll go to Kelly.
And William Byron has led every lap of this race, although he said at the end of that run he just got a little bit too tight, although he said he could still break the back end free a little bit on exit. They think it will free up with sticker tires. No changes on the 9. Just 4 Goodyear and Sunoco fuel. And the 22 of Ryan Blaney, he said he got way too tight. Said he was chattering the front end from the center off, although his entry's fine. They made a wedge adjustment just now, 4 Goodyears. And Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Kelly, Daniel Suarez has a long way to go. He's the very first pit stall on pit road. You see him make the dive for that stall. His Cup pit crew is who will take care of him here coming to pit road. Suarez said the car a little bit too free on entry. He said, but I like it. If I could keep it that way all day long, I would. But tight center, tight exit, that's the biggest thing. A left side and right side wedge adjustment. Daniel Suarez trying to gain some spots on pit road. Don't think they did though, Rick.
Blaney was able to grab a spot away from William Byron. Suarez comes off in the same position that he was in before. Tyler Reddick able to get 3 positions off pit road. Want to take a look at the stage results presented by Ford Performance. Again, the drivers that have numbers next to their names are eligible for points. William Byron gaining 10 points. Justin Allgaier 7, Elliott Sadler 5. So the top 5. Drivers Blaney, Suarez, and Eric Jones not able to get points because they run full time in the Cup Series. Let's dial up the winner of stage 1, William Byron.
Hey, William, you got a moment to talk?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Well, that was, I would say that first stage went about as perfect as it could go. What kind of challenges were you having?
We were a little bit tight that last heat cycle, but overall, car's been good all weekend, so guys have done a great job at JRM, and we've started to kind of put our plan together for these last few races and execute it, so so far it's going pretty well.
Well, I noticed a 22 car that came out of pit road in front of you. I noticed on the racetrack he was using a much higher groove. Is that something you're going to look at here in a few laps?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good for the first 10, 15, I think, so we'll definitely look at that and see what we got here.
All right, good luck, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And the 20 of Eric Jones and the 24 of Corey LaJoie, both speeding on pit road. It is the Monster Mile, and it's already been tough on a few different drivers. The race off of pit road was won by Ryan Blaney, and so William Byron will start probably on his inside for the restart. Marty.
Rick, we talk about laying rubber down on the racetrack and then under caution. picking it back up. This is what we mean. These tires just came off Daniel Suarez's car. At the end of that stage, they had 1 lap under caution. Look at all the rubber these tires picked up in just 1 caution flag lap. And Jeff, I'm sure as a driver, you feel that on the race car, don't you? That's after just 1 caution flag lap. Imagine running around 4 or 5 laps under caution. You literally pick the rubber up off the racetrack.
Well, Marty, remember that if we get a restart late in this race on older tires, because the older the tires are and the hotter they are, the more rubber they pick up. And many times coming to get the green, you think you have a flat tire at this racetrack. It has no grip whatsoever. So the drivers that get their tires cleaned up the most, hot tires with debris on them, they're going to have the best chance to have good restarts.
Jeremy Clements in the playoffs. He also sped on pit road, so he will restart at the back of the field. Ryan Blaney, William Byron making up row 1 as the field approaches the Geico restart zone once again. Great restart for Blaney. William Byron was able to stay just in front of the 42 of Tyler Reddick. Look how congested it is and difficult as we ride along with Justin Allgaier on the helmet cam.
It was interesting how he entered turn 1, kind of splitting the 2 cars, almost trying to get that little pocket of air that was coming between the 2 cars. Instead of chasing them in the corner, kind of got to the middle of them and found a little bit of fresh air.
See how much wheel movement Justin Allgaier had. You want to see that wheel as steady as you can.
Look at this mess right here.
Matt Tifft in the 19. We ride along with him. Where he's running on the track, just 4 points above the cutoff line.
Good job coming from the back. He's battling the net for 13th position. Remember, he had a problem in qualifying. Had to start in the back, had a flat tire.
Well, Tiff's teammate Eric Jones had that speeding penalty, had to go to the back of the track, the back of the field. And he's been using all of the racetrack, getting back through. As you see right there, the 98 gets checked up. Slows the 23 down and make contact with the wall.
23 hit the wall. We saw him slide up the track. Spencer Gallagher is going to have some damage to the right side of that car. It was just too tight.
He's running in 15th position.
Don't see anything.
Well, you mentioned how they kind of stack up here, Jeff, and this is what happened right here. The 98 gets loose. He checks up. The 23 gets contact from the 3 in a very tough place on the racetrack on corner exit, and the 20 of Eric Jones kind of sneaks by. You see right there how just loose the 98 is out of the groove. And
Spencer tried to turn and go underneath the 98, but the 3 already had some momentum going and just couldn't get slowed up. Gave him a shot.
98 close to the wall as well. So Casey Mears was able to stay off the wall.
Of course, there's Blake Cook. Last thing he needs to do is get in a wreck, trying to get it moving to the next round of the playoffs.
Eric Jones continuing to move up after the speeding penalty. Everyone's searching for a different line around this racetrack. Want to listen in on spotter communication from the 19 of Tifft.
Leaders there starting to do the super diamond. What's the super diamond? Sorry. Yeah, enter in middle of the dark black and then up to the top of the black, the rubbered in section. About half lane higher than that, and then pulling it back down, straight line in the exit.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Dave.
And Rick, you heard spotter Tony Hirschman apologize a little bit there. That's because he's normally Kyle Busch's spotter in the Cup Series. Kyle has been here 25 times alone in the Cup Series. This is Matt's 4th race ever at Dover, so that's why maybe something like Super Diamond doesn't quite yet translate.
Thanks for the info. It sounds cool, but what exactly does that mean? I like that.
Here, Tifft in and out of the gas. The 9 of William Byron continuing to chase after Ryan Blaney in that 22.
Blaney still working the bottom of the racetrack. Jeff, you mentioned when you talked to William Byron how that 22 had moved up. William said he was going to have to give it a look. There he was a little bit higher right there. We'll have to see if he continues to try to move up the racetrack to find a little better handling, a little better lap time.
It doesn't surprise me that, you know, right now we're on 11 laps since we dropped a green flag, that they are on the bottom of the racetrack. The top doesn't seem to work really well until you have some older tires and the pace starts to fall off a little bit. So I think you'll see the 22 back up the racetrack, but he's going to make that decision based on the way his car feels when he starts losing grip.
Just a half a second back, it's William Byron in the 9. Kelly.
And Rick, we keep talking about the 9, and they've been observing the 22. They were observing him, in fact, when he was behind the 9 car and gaining. Listen to that radio.
22 started making good time. He was up there first, and it was pretty clear. Kind of looked like once the rubber got in, you know, he kind of stabilized on the time. But
Yeah, tip more. It seems like when it was white, it was pretty fast, but like you said, once it got rubbered up, it wasn't that good.
So just more discussions on how the track changes as it rubbers up. Right now, William Byron saying he was just a little bit free here to start.
Yeah, but Rick, one thing we are going to continue to talk about, and you heard Parker mention it, was while there might be grip and lap time up there, one very unique characteristic of Dover, it's still one of those tracks where those Goodyear tires just can't run forever. You cannot just continue to punish the right front tire. It will give up. So when you look at the average age of those top 5 guys, right, 23, 19, 21, 25, 19, very young race car drivers. So that's that balance, Jeff. You got to go faster, but at what expense?
At that age, it's hard to understand the expense part. The only part you know is speed.
And they're all looking for it as they all chase after Ryan Blaney. Blaney out front as we go NASCAR nonstop. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Bank of America. Life better connected. We saw some great racing there in NASCAR nonstop. Very close to contact between Justin Allgaier and Daniel Hemrick.
So right here, Allgaier's got the outside lane, and Hemrick was giving it to him, but it was so tight because Allgaier got loose. Great work by the spotter on the 21 car.
How many lanes does he need? Inside by himself.
To let him know that there's a car on the outside.
That was a battle for the 6th position. Allgaier now running in that spot. Cole Custer just in front of him. Tyler Reddick in the 42 running 4th. And Tyler Reddick able to win the race a week ago. Marty.
Yeah, Rick, a nice way to back up that first career win at Kentucky by running top 3 here. A moment ago just fell back to 4th when Daniel Suarez went around him. They've been having some radio issues on the 42. Tyler's having a tough time hearing the race team. They told him to check his connections inside the race car. Asked Mike Shiplett, where'd that speed come from last weekend? He said we put a lot of effort into the aero side of things, but of course we couldn't bring that here because that's the composite body stuff. So he's excited to get to Charlotte next week with his 42 team, and they'll have Alex Bowman in a couple races for the 42 later this year. But they think they've really found some stuff on the aero side when they can bring those steel-bodied cars. But with these composite body cars, they're all the same, so that aero advantage is gone.
Well, that's part of the initiative. You know, that's part of what NASCAR is working on, is trying to make these cars a little more similar so you don't have to have quite the funding to build a fast race car, and also trying to lower the cost. So sounds like it might be working.
Well, yeah, and it's a good combination for this 42. I mean, Tyler Reddick, he won here in the trucks back in 2015. He gets to the outside of Cole Custer. And Kyle Larson won here in this 42 car. So the car has shown success, and the driver has found success here at Dover. Parker?
Hey guys, Jeff and I both know how intense it is to actually drive this racetrack, but it's also one of my favorite racetracks to simply watch race cars. And I'm in one of my favorite spots in the world. It's just outside turn 2 here, watching the cars come off the corner. It's right before you go over the bridge to get inside the racetrack. And it's awesome to watch the cars being full yaw, coming off the corner, the drivers in the throttle, trying to get the power down. You see them running different lanes. But Jeff, I have to say, being a driver and knowing what they're going through, I'm always a little scared standing here because I know how close and on the edge those drivers are to making a mistake.
Yeah, Parker, so, you know, you must have a short memory because the 40 of Chad Fincham hit the wall right there at a high rate of speed, like about 10 feet from where you're standing about 20 minutes ago.
Playoff points on the left. You see quite a few playoff drivers running together here, fighting for positions. Every spot is a point.
And Rick, as we close in with roughly 20 laps to go in stage 2, currently 23 laps to go. We're only 2 laps away from our longest green flag run, so we're starting to get into that territory where the cars are going to continue to shift. We see cars moving up the racetrack. We'll have to see if that continues as this stage comes to a close.
Also closing in on the halfway point of the race. Again, just 200 laps. So a fairly quick race for the Xfinity Series from the Monster Mile. 22 to go in this second stage.
This is a great battle right here. You see that 42 of Reddick, he's taking the top of the racetrack. I think Cole Custer may be just a little bit quicker, but even right here underneath that 42, you can roll the middle, but now you have to pinch the car off a corner exit. You just cannot carry the speed down the straights that you want to carry.
Reddick is doing a very nice job, though, of not overdriving that top. He's running that. You talked about Matt Kenseth doing this here before. Well, Tyler Reddick has way fewer starts than a veteran like Matt Kenseth, but doing that same type of idea, just giving up the bottom of the racetrack, saying you can have it, I'm going to run up here at the top, and doing a nice job of not making a mistake, because that's really what the 00 needs to get by.
One of the veterans of the Xfinity Series going for a championship again is Elliott Sadler. Elliott in the 1. As we look at the playoff keys for Elliott Sadler, finish the job. he was battling against Cole Custer, and we were able to hear from Elliott Sadler about Cole Custer and racing with him.
The biggest underdog that I think fans maybe hadn't paid attention to as much as we have is Cole Custer. He has been really fast here lately, showed a lot of speed heading into the playoffs, a lot of tracks that we run at. Those guys have done a really good job of creating a lot of speed the last couple months. So to me, Cole Custer is going to surprise a bunch of fans in this playoffs.
Well, it's interesting. He would talk about Cole Custer in that 00, first year for Stewart-Haas Racing to have an Xfinity car. But remember, Elliott Sadler's crew chief is Kevin Meendering. Cole Custer's crew chief is Jeff Meendering, brothers. So I think that it's not by chance that Elliott Sadler has an idea and an eye on that 00. Both of those Meendering brothers, very, very talented. Kevin Meendering, a longtime engineer in the Cup Series. Jeff Meendering, a longtime car chief in the Cup Series, both giving an opportunity here in the Xfinity Series.
It's a family affair. Brothers battling against each other. Ryan Blaney continuing to run up front. William Byron about a second back. Justin Allgaier has made his way up to the 3rd spot as we go NASCAR nonstop. Get NASCAR coverage when you're on the go with NASCAR Mobile. You can even listen to drivers and teams discuss race strategy. Download for free at NASCAR.com/mobile. Riding along, U.S. Cellular on board of Brendan Gaughan. Gaughan running in the 14th position, and already Ryan Blaney has put everyone 19th and back a lap down. So Brendan Gaughan with just 8 laps to go, probably in good shape of staying on the lead lap, but Corey LaJoie about to go a lap down, as is Ryan Reed.
Yeah, and it's too bad for Corey LaJoie. He had a penalty on that last round of pit stops. He was running up inside the top 15, but that penalty lost his track position. Now he's trying to battle, as you said, to stay on the lead lap.
Kelly.
And the crew chief on this 22 car, Greg Irwin, had a lot of confidence when I talked to him today. Just said, hey, do you guys have a good piece today? And he smiled, oh yeah, we've got a really good car. Remember, they finished runner-up with Ryan Blaney in this car here in the spring. They finished second to the 42 of Kyle Larson, but those two cars both kind of broke away from the rest of the field. And while we're all talking about the Drivers' Championship, don't forget there's also an Owners' Championship at stake, which is what's on the line for that 22 car. They did not have a good week last week. They really want to go for the win, which will automatically advance them to the next round of the playoffs in the Owners' title there for Penske Racing, or Team Penske, I should say.
Yeah, there's another title out there, the Owners' title, separate from the Drivers' title, but I think so much is made of these drivers. As we look at the 42 of Tyler Reddick, way up the racetrack, he's running almost up against the wall already, as this has been a very long green flag run, 48 laps already, but look how high the 42 is running up the racetrack now.
In this battle between he and Cole Custer, they've been going at it for about 20 laps. You can see Cole rolls the middle of the corner so well, gets actually beside him, but then Reddick gets that launch on the outside.
Parker. And Jeff, I think we should talk about why does that outside lane work? Well, Reddick is explaining and showing us why right now. Not only are you trying to get away from the rubber that's being laid down the racetrack, but it's about having that straight exit. It's about being able to get the power down and that big run off the top, and that's why you end up there, because once you get up there, you can turn the car in the center, get it straighter pointed off the exit, and get that power down in the run that he's been using to be so fast up there.
Thanks, Parker. Only 3 laps to go in this, the second stage. And look at the playoff storylines. Tifft started in the rear, crashed on lap 6, currently running 10th. William Byron, after starting up front, he led the first 62 laps, running second now. But Jeremy Clements, currently 26th. He had a speeding penalty on lap 64.
Well, Rick, you updated Brendan Gaughan running in 14th while he is safely on the lead lap. His biggest adversary for this playoff run is the 16 of Ryan Reed, who's battling to try to stay on the lead lap. Only 5 points ahead of Brendan Gaughan for that cut line. This lap that the 16 is losing with 2 to go could be a big player in the playoff run.
And he just put him a lap down. Now he needs to stay. The 16 needs to stay right on the back bumper of the 22 if he can, because if the 22 gets by the 39 before he gets back to the end of the stage, that would be the 39 that would have the free pass, or possibility of the free pass. Ryan Sieg, we'll see if he's able to stay in front of him. No. So that means that while we see Ryan Blaney win the stage, Ryan Sieg will be the free pass recipient as the battle continues for a top 10 spot in this stage. Look how close it was there between Custer and Hemrick.
1 point by about 2 feet.
Ryan Blaney has led 57 laps of this race. Most importantly, that last lap, getting stage 2 win. Points already earned today by the playoff drivers, all 12 on the list, but only 6 of them have earned points through the stages. Kelly.
William Byron on pit road, he said he took off just a little bit too free, but was tight at the end of the run. They made a small track bar adjustment and an air pressure adjustment to help tighten him up. Meanwhile, that's the 22 of Ryan Blaney. He too said he took off tight, but then was loose at both ends of the racetrack by the end. He said we just need a little adjustment. They made an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires and fuel, Dave.
Third in the stage, Justin Allgaier's stage had 2 faces to it. If they can balance that out, he feels like he could win this thing. He gets a chassis adjustment, 4 Goodyear tires, and the Phillips Sunoco fuel.
Race off the pit road. Blaney's going to hold on to the top spot. William Byron will come out second. Daniel Suarez gains a position. Justin Allgaier loses one. We'll be back for the restart after this. Sunday night is football night. Tomorrow, T.Y. Hilton and the Colts visit Seattle to face Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Mike Tirico and Dan Patrick host Football Night in America. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC. Both teams currently 1-2.
Rick, can I put you up there?
That's the short straw. You draw the short straw when you go up on top of that crane. A lot of action taking place today at Dover.
Yeah, it started early, Jeff. You mentioned how many yellows there were in the spring race. Well, the fall race started the same way, a rash of yellows to get going.
Yeah, big impact by the 40 of Chad Fincham. Hard into the wall, and then this battle off turn 2, more contact.
24 was caught for speeding under this most recent caution and trip down pit road. That was Court of the Joy. Race leader Ryan Blaney. 3 different drivers have been out front. Blaney, William Byron, and Daniel Suarez. 4 lead changes, 5 cautions. They happened early. And currently 17 cars on the lead lap. Playoff drivers that aren't on the lead lap: Jeremy Clements, Blake Cook, and Ryan Reed, all being scored at least a lap down.
Well, I think that's a big advantage. Brendan Gaughan, Mike Lynette, those 2 drivers have to see this as an opportunity. Ryan Reed, as you mentioned, is not currently on the lead lap, so he sits inside the playoff standings in the 8th position. Only 4 points, as you see on the left side of your screen, above Brendan Gaughan, 9 points above Mike Lynette. So, Jeff, we keep talking about the keys to the playoff. Well, here's the key. Go out there and take some points. Don't sit back and hope it comes to you. Brendan Gaughan currently 14th. I know he's trying. He's trying to run the best he can, but here on the U.S. Cellular onboard, we see him warming his tires up, getting ready, pull the belts tight, because that's what he has to do. Next week is a cut race. Come out of here with some points.
And small things within a race make a huge difference. Think about Ryan Reed. He missed being the free pass car by a half a lap.
Right.
You know, when Blaney got to the other car, put him a lap down, that moved him out of being that free pass car. So small things within a race can have a huge impact on the championship.
And Jeff, think who's he's racing against right now, Ryan Reed. He has Blake Cook hot on his heels, who's gunning for him to get that free pass position. So this race for the free pass position could have playoff implications.
Justin Allgaier currently running in the 4th position. We're going to take the perspective of what he sees. We're riding along the helmet cam for this restart.
Rolling fine at your door. Bumper, you're pulling in. Still fairly there, maybe, can't tell. Bumper, clear by half, clear, 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 clear. No run, pulling away. Good job.
Great restart for Justin Allgaier. Daniel Hemrick in the 21 falling back just a bit. And that outside line is Elliott Sadler trying to make the pass on the inside. Brennan Poole all over the back bumper, the 1. Close to contact there.
Elliott Sadler was behind the 21 and had all the air off his car, and then 3 wide behind him. Brendan Poole pulled right up behind him, pulled all the air off his rear spoiler as well. Elliott was along for the ride.
Able to keep it straight as he's chasing after Ty Dillon in the 3 just in front of him. Tifft in the 19, running just behind Elliott Sadler.
Tift's done a solid job today.
Again, just in front of Tifft is the 1 of Sadler. Marty.
And guys, remember with the 1 of Elliott Sadler and Brennan Poole, they had a little tiff earlier this year, or tiff, I should say, at Mid-Ohio. I asked Elliott the next week at Bristol, you over that? He said, no, I'm not over that. So interesting here, the 48 gets into the 1 again. Elliott did say something on the radio about it a moment ago, but didn't seem too angry.
So right here you see the 9 car of William Byron. We've seen him all day long on the bottom of the racetrack, but now that he's fallen back to 3rd, Justin Allgaier in front of him, he's had to change his strategy. So look at what he's doing. He's moved up the racetrack, trying to roll the middle, then turn and use that speed on corner exit to try to get by the 7.
Well, he needs to get going because right behind him, the 18 of Daniel Suarez is continuing to run some of the top 1 or 2 lap times each lap. The only car perhaps faster is Ryan Blaney, the current leader.
And guys, Justin Allgaier told his team where he thought he could run the best.
You know, I'm not good in the rubber right there. I had to be outside the rubber left or right, and I was just afraid that I was going to burn one or the other up, you know what I mean?
Jeff, what do you think about that?
Well, I think Justin Allgaier is just continuing to improve. You know, he's been around for a long time, but I think he's at his best right now. I think he's observing, paying attention, become a real student of the sport, and I think that's a great example of it.
Let's look back at the 1 of Elliott Sadler.
Here you go. The 21's on the outside, so the 1 doesn't have any grip on it because of that side force we talked about earlier. And then the car behind him is making that only worse, taking air off the back of the car as well.
And we see right here Corey LaJoie trying to get inside the 11. The 11 runs down the racetrack. Corey LaJoie says, hey man, I'm here. We're both running down. I know you're a playoff car, but I have the position, a little bit of contact in the left rear quarter panel. Now Daniel Suarez is kind of closed into the back bumper of William Byron, but can he find a way around? The 9 climbs the banking, the 18 runs the bottom of the racetrack.
Only 65 laps to go in the race, and so we're starting to see drivers get a little impatient, not giving anyone much room. Marty.
Getting a little racy out there, Rick. Daniel Suarez asked Eric Phillips a moment ago when they came down for the pit stop. He said, I'm just too free, bud, but if he can help me early in the run, I think that would be huge, and that's really worked for the 18 car. And you also see, Jeff, that he's moved up the racetrack. Remember earlier, Cole Custer was catching him, Tyler Reddick was catching him. They were all around the high line, so now you see Daniel moving up just a little bit more than William Byron. That's helped his lap time as well.
Yeah, Marty, I think the significance of that is how soon in the run he's moved up the racetrack. That tells me the racetrack is changing, allowing the drivers to go up much quicker than they could earlier in the race.
You're not going to miss any of the action as we're Going NASCAR nonstop up front, Ryan Blaney has a 1.3 second lead over Justin Allgaier. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Great battle there for the second spot. Justin Allgaier and William Byron. You're watching the Use Your Melon Drive Sober 200.
Well, it's been kind of an accordion for the 9 car of William Byron. He gets up to the bumper of the 7, doesn't complete the pass, backs up, and as he backs up, he falls into the clutches of the 18. Daniel Suarez has to switch to a more defensive line, shakes the 18 off him a little bit, and goes on offense again, but they haven't been able to overtake one another.
Let's listen into the communications of the 7 team.
Hey, this will go to the end of the race, right? So we're not giving up anything here. We're racing like hell, right? Yeah, no, we can make it from here. Get forward. Got it.
That's great communication between the spotter on top of the roof, TJ Majors, and the crew chief, Jason Burnett, on top of the pit box. I'm sure that was on the private channel, so Justin couldn't hear it. But TJ just needs to know, Jeff, how aggressive am I spotting? What kind of coaching am I giving? Are we forcing the issue here? I heard from the crew chief, it's green light. We need a block, do whatever we can to save these points.
I think also the recognition that if it was a fuel mileage race, that he needs to tell the driver now.
Yep.
Now, you can't wait 20 laps in a run and say, hey, I need you to save 5 laps. The driver needs to know that now. So the spotter just confirming that fuel mileage is not in play.
53 laps to go. Again, Blaney out front, and it's Allgaier, Byron, Suarez, and Hemrick, the top 5.
And Rick, it's just the same consistent story. I know we have Blaney out there leading the Cup regular, but let's look at the Xfinity regulars. Junior Motorsports 1, Junior Motorsports 2. Then we have some variety with Hemrick, Poole, Sadler, Custer, but consistently it seems like 2 Junior Motorsports cars, sometimes Allgaier, sometimes Byron, sometimes Sadler, they kind of rotate towards the front in all of these races.
I want to take a look at today's Toyota driver update. You mentioned Suarez. He's currently in that 4th position. Matt Tifft ran into from behind very early in this race. Doesn't seem to have affected the handling of the car very much. He's currently in the top 10, running 8th. Dave.
And the 20 car of Eric Jones, his teammate, restarted 10th, fell back to 12th, and just got around Tyler Reddick. And I think that's only because Reddick's car must be worse than Jones. Jones complaining so much about his race car now, it will not turn. It's plowing in the center. They made an air pressure adjustment to try to make it better. He says, and is telling the team, I think we made it worse, may have gone the wrong way. He said, it feels so bad, I'm just trying to hang on.
You have to ask yourself how much of that is just being back in traffic. Remember, lap 64, he had that speeding penalty. He was running 5th when it happened, Jeff. So I don't think, I mean, he knows how the car's driving. It's not driving as good as he wants, but how much better would it be driving if it was near the front of the field?
Well, yeah, what it makes me wonder, though, is that his teammate Matt Tifft, he started dead last, and he's driven up to 8th. So, you know, Matt Tifft really hasn't had that much issue.
And working around the lap traffic. And while they make the pass on the lap traffic, it almost was a good opportunity for the 21 of Hemrick to be able to try to get by the 18 of Suarez. Marty.
A moment ago, Daniel Suarez was challenging for 3rd. Now he's trying to hang on to 4th right here and keep that 21 car behind him. You know, I talked to Eric Phillips, his crew chief, before the race started. He said from June until now, because this is a composite body car, we lost an amazing amount of downforce. You know, these Gibbs cars, obviously very strong. They had been working on those bodies for so long to get all the downforce they could in those cars. But then going to these composite body cars, it's really even the playing field out. And Steve, I think that's the goal for these composite bodies, right? Even the playing field as much as you can. Take out some of the financial burden these teams are trying to get in and create all this downforce and make it level across the entire playing field. Certainly done that, and you can see the Gibbs cars not quite as advantaged as they normally would be.
Yeah, we're seeing a variety of race teams running towards the front as we see the 9 of William Byron has closed the gap on Justin Allgaier with 46 laps to go. You know, if this thing runs green, I think William Byron knows he has got to make short work of this 7 if he has any chance to run down the leader, Ryan Blaney.
And Allgaier's just not having anything of it. He's just not made any mistakes. I talked about it earlier. I think Justin Allgaier's at his very best. I think that right now, at this point in his career, this is the best he's ever driven. It's the most consistent. It's the fastest he's been on a consistent basis. He's taken all the things that he's learned and he's applying it.
The closer the 9 of Byron gets to Allgaier, it looks like the harder it is to keep that car pointed in the same direction. He has been very loose. The car's moved around a lot every time he gets really close to that 7.
Well, you just heard about this body style that NASCAR is running, and Marty reported how it's a lack of downforce, but it has even the playing field. And I just think that lack of downforce makes these cars harder to drive, which is good. The drivers are the stars. I want to see them working. Every in-car camera we've gone to all weekend long, these hands, Jeff, they're not calm. They are moving left to right, sawing on the wheel.
And every driver that's listening to this, that's going to run the Cup race tomorrow, they just stood up and said, thank you, Steve, because they all agree with you. Make them harder to drive.
Way up the racetrack, Ty Dillon trying that high line. Trying to get some momentum. We ride along with Justin Allgaier. Blaney out front, Allgaier running second as we go NASCAR nonstop. Tomorrow, it's the last race in the round of 16 for the Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs, which 12 drivers are going to advance and who's going to be eliminated. Race coverage from the Monster Mile begins at 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC-SN. We ride along with Brendan Gaughan. Take a look at the points. Brendan Gaughan was right there on the cutoff line. He is 4 points right now behind Ryan Reed. Kelly.
Yeah, and he's been trying to work there on Tyler Reddick in the 42 to get around him. Brendan Gaughan's made up 4 of the points that he needs to get to the other side of that cut line. But really, this team just trying to keep loose and have some fun. When I talked to his crew chief, Shane Wilson, he said, look, we came into the playoffs as the 11th seed, so we don't really have much to lose. There's no pressure on us, especially compared to some of these other teams with the young drivers. So this as a group certainly wants to advance to the next round of playoffs, but not trying to overthink things too much, Marty.
Kelly, right in front of him, Tyler Reddick, and you see the battle for 12th. Earlier, they were running top 5. In fact, he was 3rd at one point in this race, but now the car has gone way too free. They were too tight on the last run, over-adjusted on this last stop. He is very free right now and trying to run that high line to keep Brendan Gaughan behind him. But a nice battle on the right side of the screen, Rick, for 4th.
Yeah, good battle. Well, there's been some good battles all around the racetrack, and it's difficult at this track to see them because it's not normally the side-by-side. It's the setup of these battles. The guys that are behind that are making the runs on them.
That's absolutely. Brendan Gaughan is absolutely working his guts out to get next to this 42. He gains a few inches, loses a few inches, and you have to hand it to Tyler Reddick, who is obviously way too free. You see another slide. He has driven this car on the edge of control, but has yet to make that mistake to allow the 62 by.
I would love to see Brendan just check up a little bit and go to the very bottom of the racetrack, try to hook that apron and just see if he couldn't gain some ground on the 42. Got to run on him right here.
Little wiggle out of the 42, and Brendan Gaughan pounces on the opening, but can he get by him? No, he slides up the racetrack, has to catch it.
Well, the 42 did a nice job driving in right on the door of the 62. Jeff, that's that same thing. I wish the 62 would have just committed to the bottom of the racetrack.
That's right. You allowed the 42 to get to your door. Don't do that. Turn left. Go all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. You know that 42, you know where he's running. He's running way up the racetrack. So why run in the racetrack in the middle of the corner and let him get to your door? Drive that thing to the bottom of the racetrack. Get away from him.
He's going to try again. He continues to work, closing the gap. That's Brendan Gaughan in the 62 trying to get by the 42 of Reddick.
And remember, as you mentioned, Rick, next week is a cut race, 3 points below the cut line. We have seen 1 point make the difference.
Now he's on the back bumper. Reddick with a little bit of a wiggle earlier gave Gaughan the opportunity to get beside him.
All right, here you go. Get away from him.
There you go.
That's the effort. Still going to pull him down the back straightaway. But had that move happened when he was all the way next to him, I think he would have stood a really good chance of getting by him.
Yeah, because Brendan Gaughan needs to find a way by, because behind him, Ross Chastain has closed the gap. Michael Annette as well. And they're down to about 3 or 4 car lengths. Can they use this lap car as a pick?
There you go.
He's going to, and it works. Brendan Gaughan makes the pass. And let me tell you, he worked, what, 15, 20 laps to get by that car?
Well, I'm sure he's excited. Doesn't take a lot to get Brendan excited.
No.
Well, you talk as we were watching about Brendan Gaughan. Here's another battle where Daniel Hemrick is working very hard to pass the 18 of Daniel Suarez. But Brendan Poole is right there going, hey, go ahead. Commit to that bottom. Overdrive the corner. Make a little mistake so I can pass you.
That pass changes the points now for the 62 and 16 as Ryan Reed dropped a spot. So Ryan Reed now running 18th, Brendan Gaughan running 12th. Just 2 points separate the two right at the cut line. And again, that cut race is next week at Charlotte. Daniel Hemrick running down low, Brendan Poole following him in the 48.
And Rick, I really think this entire run of the playoffs is going to be great in the Xfinity Series. As you mentioned, next week is the cut line for the bottom 4 currently. But then look ahead. Look at the next 8 drivers. They're all just a handful of points apart. So when we get to the round of 8 to see who goes to Miami, what 4 drivers go to Miami, they're just so evenly matched.
So another position here available for Brendan Gaughan. He's caught Eric Jones. We've seen how important 1 point can be. There he goes. There's another one. 2 points in the last 3 or 4 laps.
Brendan Gaughan gaining spots, and that means gaining points. But he's got to hang on. 23 laps now, 22 laps to go from Dover. Out front, Ryan Blaney has almost a 3-second lead over Justin Allgaier. Again, win and you advance, but that's only if you're full-time in the Xfinity Series and a part of the 12 in the playoffs. Daniel Hemrick trying to move to the inside of the 18 of Suarez, and Hemrick really trying to get everything he can in this race. The Cut race coming up next week, but he might be without his crew chief next week.
Yeah, this is in practice earlier this week. As the 21 comes down pit road, you're going to see a piece of ballast. It's either lead or tungsten, comes out of the frame rail. There it is on pit road. And the rule book is pretty black and white on this one. Basically, a loss or separation of added ballast will result in a mandatory minimum 4 race suspension. So it's not a advantage. It's not anything anyone tries to do. It's just a mistake, but it's a huge safety concern for NASCAR. If that would happen on the racetrack, another car hits it, Jeff, that's one of the scariest things in racing, a piece of ballast on the racetrack. So pretty black and white. I agree, Rick. I think the 21 is going to be without some crew members, perhaps crew chief and car chief for 4 weeks.
Well, on a much more positive note, they're running 5th. Right? They're having a good day.
Right. Spin it forward.
Yes, but also having a good day is Matt Tifft. Matt Tifft running 7th, started in the back of the pack. Listen, Matt Tifft, early in this race, had to go all the way to the back because of what happened in qualifying, had a flat rear tire. He has done a very good job. Matt Tifft did not get off to a good start this year, but he has learned, he has applied, he's gotten better and better and better. It's unrealistic to expect these young drivers to just jump up and start winning races. You got to give them time. Matt Tiff's an example. Giving someone a little bit of time, let them get their feet underneath them, they can be good race car drivers. Eric Jones on pit road.
Dave.
Yes, he is. They're going to change 4 tires to give him an adjustment. This 2 tires only. This car is not handling the way he'd like.
And Tyler Reddick also has a problem down the backstretch in the 42.
And Ricky came on the radio and said, I smell rubber. I don't know what's going on. Then he said, wait, it's a tire going down. So they're going to hurry here to pit road for Tyler Reddick, who again had been falling back through the field, was running 14th when that happened, and had an extremely loose race car. And there you see it's a right rear tire for the 42 of Tyler Reddick coming down pit road.
It's an old school Dover race. We talked about it at the top of the show. Something unique about Dover, you must manage the tires. You have to get them to the finish. The right rear of the 42 comes apart, does a nice job only making that much contact with the wall. But now with 10 to go, will we see any more issues? Will a yellow come out? Will a tire come apart to the point where NASCAR will be forced to throw the caution?
9 laps to go. And the reason it looked like the tire was up when it came down, they run an inner liner here because of the speed and size of this racetrack. So the inner liner was still up, but the main tire had blown.
It's kind of a unique situation, Rick. If you think about it, there's not many races that the longest run of the day is at the end of the race. So the crew chiefs haven't had a chance to look at the tires with a bunch of laps on them. You don't know what to tell your driver. What do you tell Daniel Hemrick right now? You can't afford a blown tire.
They're telling him, Jeff, they're telling him to take care of your tires, but he wants that point that he can get if he passes Daniel Suarez.
Hemrick to the inside of Suarez. He's not able to complete the pass. He'll try again.
I think he's got him this time.
Out of turn 4, slides up in front of Suarez and takes the spot.
Well, as Dave just said, he wanted that spot. Now he has that spot. Now he can check up just a little bit and try to save a little bit of tire. 7 laps to go.
All of them riding right on the edge. We'll see. Marty.
6 laps or 7 laps to go, Rick, and check out the right rear that came off Tyler Reddick's car. You can see that right rear is fairly destroyed. So once teams see this, I wonder if other teams will be worried that something might happen to their tires. That was the right rear of Tyler Reddick's car.
Well, remember, watching Tyler Reddick, he was falling back in the field, and he was very loose. So that loose condition put a tremendous amount of pressure on that right rear tire.
And let me let you know, teams were worried well before they saw that tire. This is Dover. They know what this track can do.
Saw Byron making the pass in the 9 by the lapped car. Byron still holding on to the 3rd position. Justin Allgaier is 2nd, and Ryan Blaney has a 5.3 second lead over Allgaier. 5 laps to go.
Hey, Rick, they told the 20 driver, that's Eric Jones, that your right rear was coming apart. That's why he pitted.
So we saw now these guys that maybe had a loose car early in this run, wearing out that rear tire, leaning on it, as you mentioned, Jeff.
Well, what about the guys that had a tight car? What about those guys that were leaning on the right front tire? Those are the ones that are really nervous.
What about the guys that have to race tomorrow? I know they're nervous. If I was in there in my old job, I might be making some tweaks to the setup after seeing this race.
But a little bit longer run here, 70 laps of green with just 3 laps to go. Still out front, Blaney, 5.5 seconds. Allgaier, Byron, Hemrick, and Poole, the top 5.
Well, Rick, you mentioned those tires, right? I think that's what Ryan Blaney has done. I think he has enough car where he can stretch his lead if he wanted to, but a very veteran move. He got out to a very comfortable lead, 5.5 seconds, and from that point forward, just managed that gap. Understood that it could be a longer run.
It's been another great day for junior motorsports. Justin Allgaier, William Byron running 2nd and 3rd. Closing in on the final lap, and 1 lap to go. Presented by Credit One Bank. Ryan Blaney, after taking the lead, has been up front 135 laps. The 23-year-old looking for his 6th Xfinity Series win. This is the 60th start. As he comes out of turn 4, Blaney is going to win at the Monster Mile.
Good job, guys. That's awesome. What a car.
Already the 2nd win in just the 6 starts that he's been in this season. Justin Allgaier, William Byron, Daniel Hemrick, Brennan Poole, and Matt Tifft, all in the playoffs. Finish in the top 6. Cole Custer with a great run, finishing 8th. Elliott Sadler, Mr. Consistency, hasn't been able to find victory lane this year, but continues to put together top 10 runs. That one, a 9th place finish today. And Brendan Gaughan, I think you have to applaud the effort that Brendan Gaughan gave today as he finished 10th. Ryan Blaney talked about what a great car he had. Blaney currently racing for Wood Brothers in the Cup Series, and it's been announced that he will join Team Penske in 2018. But this win in the Xfinity Series, how can that help him for tomorrow's race?
Well, we talked about the tire. This tire is new for this race. These guys haven't been on it. Now with that nice long 73-lap run to the finish, he could go back to his Cup team and say, hey, this is what it felt like over a long run, something they're not able to do in practice.
And how about the old school no burnout? Just gonna turn around backwards, ride around, wave to the crowd.
I love that. Put himself close to the crowd, take the net down so all the fans can see him.
Saying thank you to the fans for coming out and enjoying a little Xfinity Series racing with him today.
You have to wonder too, if with this composite body, if you want to lower rear tire, you know, what kind of damage it would do.
Yeah, I mean, that car right there, it looks great, right? That car could go race again.
I would prefer he lead it like that.
And I think everyone who puts that car together would prefer the same thing. What a great run for Ryan Blaney. William Byron, after he was able to lead the first 62 laps, once he got behind another car, the handling went away for William Byron. He wasn't able to challenge for the lead anymore. He couldn't really get by anyone else. Wasn't able to get by Justin Allgaier either, after Allgaier had a great restart and was able to get by William Byron. Let's hear from the race winner. Dave's down there.
And he's unbuckling the helmet, has a good chance now to get a look at that crowd. You went by kind of old school slow to say thank you already, but how about the win for them today?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks everybody for sticking around. That's really cool to see all the fans out here on a beautiful day. But man, what a Fitzgerald Glider Kits Ford Mustang. That was awesome, and it was pretty neat to finally finish one off. We were close the first race this year, and we've been really close to this 22 team all year, really, and haven't been able to get a win with them. So hopefully this makes up for a lot of them, and hopefully we can get a lot more before the day's over.
He mentioned close. He was second in this June race, and now he puts it in victory lane.
So he'll head back to victory lane so that he could celebrate with his team, Team Penske, their 62nd career Xfinity Series win. That fan might have a 42 on his hat, might be a Kyle Larson fan, but I think he may have a new driver to cheer for, because look who gave him the winning checkered flag.
I've seen a lot of cool moves, Rick, but this one right here might be the coolest. Pick a fan out of the crowd and give him probably the best souvenir you could have.
Reminds me of a football player that runs through the end zone, hands a football to a young man, young woman.
And definitely a memory for a lifetime there. Ryan Blaney wins the race, hands off the checkered flag to one young fan that's in the crowd. And now Blaney's made his way into victory lane so he can begin to celebrate with the team. Let's go down to Kelly.
It's his second time in victory lane in the Xfinity Series this season for Ryan Blaney. But his first career win here at the Monster Mile. And now he'll get to celebrate in victory lane with his team. After celebrating with the crowd just a few moments ago. First of all, how cool for you to give the checkered flag to that young fan, Ryan. I gotta ask you though, your crew chief, Greg Irwin, told me that he thinks you're on a bit of a mental roll right now. He said he's fast in the Cup garage, he's fast when he comes here. Do you feel that same sense?
Yeah, I feel like we're really doing well right now. On both sides of it, you know, we obviously would like to be running a little bit better on the Cup side, but I can't complain. We've been pretty good the last month or so, but I can't say enough about this team. You know, I've had a handful of starts with them this year, and I think we're on second. I can't even count how many times, and they deserve to win. They deserve the best, and they did a great job. I can't thank them enough for the hard work they did. And Fitzgerald and Glider Kits, my first one with them, so they're a great partner of ours, and just really cool to be in victory lane. I've never won here at Dover, so I've always wanted a monster as a kid, and I'm really excited to have one of those. But you know, Discount Tire, Rev Group, Snap On, everything they do to put this car on the racetrack definitely means a lot, and definitely these guys behind me, it's pretty cool.
You'll get another chance to pick up another Monster Trophy tomorrow. What did you learn in this race that you might be able to apply to the 21?
Yeah, a lot. You know, it's great whenever we can get long runs in the Xfinity races, because our Cup races usually do that. So, and that way, you know, the track rubber's in a bunch, and you can kind of tell when it lays a bunch of sheets of rubber and how your car kind of reacts over it. We'll go down and kind of change our Cup car of what we needed. So it's always really nice to be able to run these Xfinity races, and I can't thank Xfinity enough for letting me do it. But we can learn a lot for tomorrow, so hopefully we can have as solid of a day tomorrow as we did today.
All right, well, congratulations. Enjoy this one. Rick?
The celebration will now begin between driver and team, and yes, he does get a monster. That's the trophy for winning here at the Monster Mile. Well, the guy who finished in 6th, just outside the top 5, Matt Tifft, with an impressive run today. Parker caught up with him just moments ago.
Matt Tifft with the recovery of the day, getting back to 6th place. You started in the rear after a tire problem in qualifying, then you got run into that first incident, and you fought back for that for a 6th place finish. What does that say about this race team?
Man, we've fought through some adversity this year. We've been up and down, and I know we were gonna have to fight up, you know, from the back, but obviously getting hit there in the beginning of the race, I was a little bit worried, but man, it's just so cool to be able to get ourselves in that position at the end of the race, puts us in a better spot going into Charlotte. So it's so cool to have Salute to Service back on here. It's awesome running with them at Daytona, but you know, really proud of this team and the way we've been able to step up lately.
What's the confidence level of this 19 team entering Charlotte as you go into that mile-and-a-half race?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, we've been riding a wave of consistency, and that's what we've needed all year. And we've been there. We just had things happen where we couldn't exactly put it all together. So, you know, I wish it would have been there all year, but you know, it's a good time to get it going.
Matt Tifft and his team trying to put it all together and make a run in the playoffs.
Thanks, Parker. Let's take a look at how the playoff drivers have done and where they stand with points. Justin Allgaier is 54 points above that cutoff line, so fairly comfortable. You can only earn 60 points in a race, so obviously Justin Allgaier up there and having a good run with the first 2 races. But you look at Brendan Gaughan, he gained a little bit on Ryan Reed. Came in, he was 8 points behind Ryan Reed, now just 2. Michael Annett 7 back. And Parker also caught up just moments ago with Brendan Gaughan.
Brendan Gaughan gets a 10th place finish here at Dover, and Brendan seemed kind of like a struggle out there a little bit. More at the beginning of the race, seemed like the car wasn't quite under you, but you guys made a big run there in that last stage.
Yeah, the middle stint, it got loose. South Point Chevy went loose. We were really good off the start, I felt, and we didn't make an adjustment, and the track freed up, and we needed to adjust on it. So last run, it was just track position. We would have been a little bit better had we not lost so much in the first run, but great job by the boys. We come out of here, we gained on points. I think I heard we're 2 points out of the cut line, so 2 points, man, that's nothing. Go to Charlotte, we'll just keep ourselves cool, and we'll gain them 2 points and make it to the round 8.
And I know you and your crew chief Shane Wilson like to have a lot of fun, so you're only 2 points out. Is it going to be the same mentality, just go have fun, see what happens?
Parker, I've known you about 10 years now. You ever see me have a different mentality?
Never.
Okay.
Well, that's it. Brendan Gaughan going to go to Charlotte and have some fun.
Well, William Byron won stage 1. You had to settle for a 3rd place finish, but William, it seemed like when you were out front, no one could get to you, but then once you lost the positions, it was hard. What did you need there at the end of the race?
I don't know, just probably a couple restarts. I mean, we need a couple restarts on the outside, but overall, really good day for us. This is a solid day that we need, and the car had a lot of speed, so just kind of hard to pass. With it being cold and one groove, it was kind of on the bottom, but I felt like if we could have gotten out front, we would have been really good. But overall, really strong day for everyone on this Exalta team, and we'll just move on to Charlotte.
Strong day indeed after the last few weeks that you guys have had. Does this feel like a good enough boost that you need as you propel through the playoffs?
I think so. I think, obviously Justin's been really strong, and the 22 is always fast, but we're not really racing him for this playoff. So we're going to focus on just getting a little bit better, making our adjustments count a little bit more, and we'll definitely get there by Homestead.
All right, William Byron finished 3rd, 1 spot behind Justin Allgaier, who's with Dave.
So for Justin, just a cup driver in front of you there would have been an extra special day for you. How close were you there at the end?
Well, I think all in all our day was good. I can't thank these guys at Junior Motorsports enough. Our Textron off-road Chevy was good. We just needed a little bit of short run speed. We fired off a little bit slower than I would have liked. Was able to maintain 2nd and stay ahead of William there, and that was kind of the difference maker. We knew the long run was going to be our strengths, but Jason and the guys did a great job on that last pit stop, making a good adjustment. Pick crew got me out where I needed to be at, and ultimately put ourselves in position to have a good day. So huge thanks to XFINITY for all they do for our sport, and this whole team. I mean, couldn't do it without them. They've done a great job this year, and we'll keep digging. We got one more race at Charlotte before the end of this one, and hopefully we can go there and have another solid day.
Justin, the long run got kind of interesting there at the end. Were you concerned at all about your tires and the wear on them?
No, we had been looking at tires all race long, and they kept monitoring back to me that everything looked great, even though we were running the top or the bottom. And I knew at the end there, going to the bottom was going to be the best thing I could do to conserve the tires, just because there was more rubber down there. So I didn't have too much concern over it, but then I started seeing some parts and pieces up there on the racetrack. I knew other guys maybe were. So good setup will do that for us, and we had a good car today.
Yeah, the strength of Junior Motorsports showing up again today on the 7 car.
Ryan Reed gets a 16th place finish, and Ryan, it seemed like a bit of a struggle out there with this race car. It just seemed like it couldn't get it to do what you wanted it to do there. Ended up 2 laps down. Where did you guys need to improve?
Yeah, I mean, you know how this racetrack is. It's kind of a feast or famine racetrack where if your car's good, you have a great day and have a lot of fun. And man, if you miss it at this place, it's really a tough day. It kind of eats you alive. And we just missed it. I thought we had a good practice day yesterday, and then when we showed up for qualifying, it just wasn't the same. So we got to go back to shop, evaluate what went wrong, and how we're not going to let this happen again, and how we're going to be better. But Charlotte's going to be exciting now. It's a tight gap going into Charlotte, and hopefully everyone tunes in on XFINITY X1, because I think it's going to be a heck of a showdown.
You said you're only 2 points to the good entering Charlotte. What's the confidence level going there? Do you feel like you guys are going to bring the speed to compete up front?
I'll let you know on Friday, next Friday. Right now, I'm just going to go back, and we're still on Dover. We got to go back, and regardless of what happens, we need to figure out why we missed it so bad today, and we'll worry about Charlotte on Monday. So it's just part of the deal. I think as part of this deal, you're going to have bad weekends, right? And this was a worse weekend than we wanted to have, but we salvaged. We didn't tear the race car up, and the guys did get on pit road, didn't have any extra mistakes, and that's what it's going to take not to eliminate yourself.
Mistake-free day for Ryan Reed here at Dover.
Thanks, Parker. And those of you tuning in a little bit early at the top of the hour, it's Notre Dame football, but we'll be back to talk with more drivers right after this.